Hello, I'm Ben, or BC Tech, and I am a student at Penn State University in the College of IST. I'm studying cybersecurity, and I made this channel for a class, so I'm just going to be uploading some assignments, going over some basic topics, mostly about databases. And today, I'm going to talk about SQL versus NoSQL databases. But first, a little bit about my brand. Again, it's BC Tech, separated into two-letter blocks, kind of like a MAC address would be. And my icon is just a little bit of a play on the whole BC thing, kind of like ancient technology. So into the main part of the video, SQL versus NoSQL. And the biggest difference is SQL databases are relational and NoSQL databases are non-relational. And it's pretty much from this that all the other differences stem, at least the major ones. Like SQL is table-based, NoSQL has a lot of different things, document-based key-value pairs, graph databases. SQL is predefined, so you set up the whole thing, you know exactly how the data is going to be structured, and NoSQL databases are dynamic and they're for unstructured data. SQL databases are vertically scalable, which means that you have to keep upgrading one server. You can't just add more servers, but with NoSQL, you can just add more servers instead, which is usually advantageous. SQL databases use SQL, which makes a lot of sense, whereas NoSQL databases don't use SQL because it wouldn't work, because they're focused on a collection of documents instead of like very structured tables. And then into the next article from IBM, some of the pros and cons of SQL databases versus NoSQL databases. So SQL databases have a smaller storage footprint because everything's structured, it's laid out, it's very well optimized because people have been using this for a very long time and in very similar ways because it's so like set as what it is. You have good data integrity with ACID, which I'm going to talk more about in the next article. And you have standard access to data along with more flexible query support. NoSQL is a lot more scalable because, again, you can just keep on adding more servers. The data models are a lot more flexible because it's not focused on these tables that you have to set up beforehand. But some of the cons of it are the constraints are a lot looser and a lack of flexibility across patterns. All right, so into ACID and what it is, it's atomicity, which the transaction either succeeds or it's completely rolled back. Consistency, data written to a database has to obey the rules. Isolation, transactions happening at the same time, it's the same as if they're happen one after another, and they have to be durable because once it's committed to the database, it's permanent. Base is for NoSQL databases, and it just means that it's base availability, which means that the data will be available, but it's changing and inconsistent. It's soft state, which means that the database changes over time, and eventually it will be consistent because the data will propagate everywhere. Generally, you want to use SQL if you have to query the data a lot, because it's a lot more efficient at that because of how structured it is. And then back to how they scale differently. So here are the main points from this. SQL, relational, table-based, predefined, vertically scalable, standardized, ACID, and very fast queries. NoSQL, non-relational, document key-value pair, graph-based, dynamic, horizontally scalable, very little standardization, base, slower queries because of flexible design. All right, thank you, and see you next week.